What do you mean my side of the commission is less? I represent the buyer. You have the house for sale. Hi, everybody. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors and director of the Real Estate Academy of America. And today's contract tip has to do with the co-op broker commission and changes to what is marketed or advertised in an MLS service. So let's get into it. So you may or may not have seen or experienced a situation where your broker is representing a buyer, and let's say in an MLS service, it says that the co-op commission for a broker representing a buyer is whatever percent. But the property gets under contract, and lo and behold, it turns out that the broker side commission is less than what was marketed in MLS. How does all of this happen? Is it I was going to say legal, but what are the rules and regulations regarding changing or altering a broker's co-op commission, a listing broker or seller, or basically a listing broker, changing or altering a buyer's broker co-op commission when they are procuring cause of sale for a contract? So there are a lot of facets I want to cover today, and I will try and cover everything and then touch on something towards the end that you need to be aware of as a real estate agent. So, as you know, when a seller puts a property up for sale, they sign a seller brokerage agreement, and in that seller brokerage agreement, it has they negotiate with the listing broker how much total commission they are going to pay. And then I am here in Georgia, and this is May of 2023. And the date will be important towards the end, so stay tuned. But in Georgia, the listing broker, generally speaking, shares part of that seller paid commission with a broker representing a buyer. And that is called a co-op commission. The commission is shared with a co-op or cooperating broker representing the buyer. So in an MLS service, usually it will say how much the co-op commission is, and it'll have a total percentage of the sale price that a broker representing a buyer can expect to be paid if they are procuring cause of sale for a transaction. Now, a lot of times there will be a change to that expected co-op commission, and there can be all sorts of changes, but what we see most often is if the listing broker, listing agent shows a buyer, is the first one to show a buyer a property, even if that buyer is represented in a client relationship by another broker, a lot of times what we see communicated is that that co-op commission will be less than what was originally communicated or what that broker could expect to be paid if they showed the property initially. How does all this come about? Is it allowed in the rules, so forth and so on? So in the let's start with the listing agreement. In the GAR, the Georgia Association of Realtors Listing Agreement, Form F-101, Exclusive Seller Brokerage Engagement Agreement, under paragraph A4, it talks about commission. And it says the seller agrees to pay the broker the following commission at the closing of any contract to sell of the property as follows. And it's a total percent of the sale price, a flat dollar amount, or other. That's 4A. 4B goes on to say the broker agrees to pay a cooperating broker, if any, certain percentage of the sale price or flat fee. Generally speaking, 4A is the total amount of commission that a seller is willing to pay for the property being sold, and that's a big number. And then 4B is of that total amount, what part of that is being shared with a cooperating broker. However, also in the GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors Seller Brokerage Agreement, paragraph 4C states, Commission adjustment to cooperating broker. There may be circumstances where the seller's broker shall not pay the cooperating broker the commission referenced in section A4B above. These circumstances and the commission that shall be paid in such circumstances are as follows. And then there's fill in the blanks. And that is where the listing broker would have that discussion with the seller about if the listing agent is the one that shows a buyer, even if they are represented by a buyer's broker, then that buyer's broker at closing will be paid a different percentage of the total commission than if that buyer's agent showed the listing. So in the GAR purchase and sale agreement, it is there. In the RE Forms exclusive listing agreement, which is RE 151 exclusive seller brokerage engagement, it also talks about broker compensation. However, it does not address any type of co-op fee. In the RE Forms seller brokerage agreement, under paragraph 3, it states broker compensation. Seller agrees to pay broker a sales commission of a certain percentage of the sale price or a flat fee in the event that during the term of this agreement, broker or any other licensee procures a person ready, willing, and able to purchase the property at a price of not less than X percent, or the seller enters into an enforceable contract for the sale or exchange of property with any buyer without an exclusion set forth in this agreement with the buyer, whether buyer through efforts of the broker, so forth and so on. So that's where it is addressed in the listing agreements or the seller brokerage agreements. Now, let's look at what the MLS services say. So specifically, I'm just going to speak to FMLS, First Multiple Listing Service, and the Georgia MLS here in, again, Metro Georgia. In FMLS, under their rules and regulations, actually, I think it's under their admin section, there is a full paragraph on buyer agency offer of commission. And in FMLS, it states, there is a field on every listing, buyer agency compensation, which notifies the buyer broker agency of what is offered by the selling broker agency if they participate in the sale of that listing. The buyer agency compensation can be entered as a percentage of the sale price or a specific dollar amount. If there is a potential reduction in the compensation payable to the cooperating brokers, or the method by which the possible reduction of compensation shall be calculated, it must be clearly communicated to the potential cooperating broker before the time they submit an offer. If there is a potential reduction in the compensation payable to cooperating brokers, or the method by which the possible reduction in compensation shall be calculated, it must be listed in the public remarks and clearly communicated to the potential cooperating brokers before the time they submit an offer. Any comments relating to the commission or compensation appearing in public remarks must include the selling broker and not selling agent. Georgia MLS, under paragraph or note 4, they have similar information that any change to potential compensation for a broker working with a buyer must be clearly communicated in the MLS service. Additionally, license law states under unfair trade practice, OCGA 434025B35 to be exact, it states it is an unfair trade practice to induce any person to alter, modify, or change another licensee's fee or commission for real estate brokerage services without the licensee's prior written consent. Okay, what does all of this mean? All of this means is that it is okay to change or, one more thing. One more thing to bring to your attention. If there is a property that is listed in an MLS service that does show a cooperating commission, should that other broker be the procuring cause of sale, then that does constitute a contractual offer to cooperate with all members of the MLS and to pay them a specified commission if they're procuring cause of sale. However, if a property is not listed in an MLS service, i.e. new construction not yet listed, i.e. just a property that is not yet listed in an MLS service, then the financial basis upon which the selling broker will be compensated needs to be worked out in advance. Okay, now, so what does all of this mean? All of this means that the commission for selling a property initiates with a seller. When a seller works with a broker representing them to sell a property, they initiate all of the commission. They decide how much money is going to be paid as commission when their house sells. All of that is paid to the listing broker. Then the listing broker shares part of that commission with a buyer's broker who is procuring cause of sale. In an MLS service, this needs to be communicated how much that co-op commission is going to be and what are the circumstances where that can change. It used to be that listing agents would put that in private remarks. Typically speaking, if I show your buyer and you're not present, then your co-op commission at closing will be X amount versus Y amount. It now is required to be in the public remarks, and a buyer needs to be made aware of that. Again, this is just if a property is in an MLS service regarding the MLS remarks. If a property is not in the MLS service and you are working with a buyer representing a buyer, then you need to negotiate what the buyer side commission is going to be before you ever show that property. There is no contract to cooperate if a property is sold not in an MLS service. And again, this is new construction prior to it being required to be listed. So, you listing agents, though, this needs to be communicated and agreed upon by the seller. You might have a seller that says, no, I want you to give incentive to a buyer's agent to bring by a buyer. And if a buyer has already signed a buyer brokerage agreement with that broker, that's going to be their client, and they want to see my house, and for whatever reason that buyer's agent is out of town or something like that, you go show my house. I'm hiring you to sell my house. I don't care how you go about doing that. I'm paying you to get my house sold. You are not going to cut the commission of a buyer's agent and prevent them from seeing my house and getting my house under contract, even if you have to show it. That's what I'm hiring you to do, is do whatever you need to do to get my home sold. So your sellers need to agree to this. Again, in the GAR seller brokerage agreement, there is a place where they sign and agree to this. In the RE forms, if the seller agrees that the listing broker can change the commission to a buyer's broker, you probably need to address that as a special stipulation in the seller brokerage agreement in the RE forms. If the property is not listed, GAR has a form, and I'll link it below. I don't recall the form number off the top of my head, but it is called co-op commission agreement to be shown prior to be used prior to showing. That is a different form than the instructions to closing attorney. This is a form where a buyer's broker and a listing broker agree on what the co-op commission is going to be before you ever show it, to stay in compliance with license law, and so everybody is on the same page. Now, you buyer's agents, the reason this has come about, well, I'll tell you the reason in a minute, but in the GAR buyer brokerage agreement, there is a section where it states how much commission a buyer is going to pay the buyer's broker. And then it goes on to say that that amount is offset by how much the seller or listing broker is paying, and there's evidence of that in the MLS service. That's why any changes to commission need to be included in the public remarks of any MLS listing. Why is all of this about? Well, too much to get into in this specific video, but for the ongoing lawsuit against NAR and some other major brokerages regarding commission, specifically buyer brokerage commission, and buyers not necessarily being aware of what commission their brokers are making, so forth and so on. I've done previous videos on that, and check it out in Google. Again, as of May 2023, I believe that is still an ongoing lawsuit. There have been settlements that have been recanted, rescinded, and so it is, I believe, still ongoing, but that has accounted for changes in various MLS services throughout the country, as well as the realtor policies, specifically the clear cooperation policy. So that's why all of this is important, that you absolutely need to disclose co-op commission for a buyer's broker and any potential changes, what circumstances under which that changes, and the seller has to agree to that. Hope this contract tip helped you out. Thank you so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and the director of the Real Estate Academy of America, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education. Bye. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.